What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Weisz.
Dr. Jeremy Weisz here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. This is also going to go on the Rising Entrepreneurs podcast, which you'll see in a moment. I'm here with Winnie Hart of TwinEngine. Before I formally introduce Winnie, I always like to point out other episodes people should check out of the podcast. And because Winnie is a huge part of EO and is very involved, we have some amazing women of EO on the podcast. We've had Andrea Herrera, we've had Andrea Houston, we've had Becky Galvez, and so many more. So check those out. And before we get into it, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. And at Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships. And how do we do that? We help you run your podcast. And for me, Winnie, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I found no better way over the past decade to profile the people and the companies I most admire on this planet and talk about and share with the world what they're working on and what they're doing. So if you've thought about starting a podcast, you should. If you have questions, you can go to rise25.com and check out more. Email us at support@rise25.com. And we look forward to answering any questions you have. Today, I am very excited. We have Winnie Hart. She's founder and chief strategic engine of TwinEngine. You will find out in a minute why it's called TwinEngine, and they are a brand growth agency fueled by purpose. And Winnie is an inspired, industry recognized interpreter of business brand and personality. She brings more than 30 years of experience in impacting leaders and businesses to know what they stand for so that they can make a difference in the world. She is the author of Stand Out as a Thought Leader. And Winnie, if you'd hold that up, they did a beautiful job with the cover. And it's mastering the 8 fundamentals of standing out in business. And also, what do you stand for? The book. And if you're watching the video, you can see that beautiful cover there. She's also the creator of the one-page marketing plan and Brand in the Box, which are strategic tools to help brands build a clear, structured plan to stand out. You know, there's no better person to talk about standing out than Winnie, which she'll talk about in a second, as being a identical twin. But I do want to mention, for the past 15 plus years, she's been a member and is currently global board director of entrepreneurs organization, EO. So Winnie, thanks for joining me.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be here, Jeremy.
So TwinEngine, tell me what you do at TwinEngine and where the name comes from.
TwinEngine. Well, you know, I have a little brother, Tommy, by the way. There's more than just Winnie and Lori. And my brother, Tommy, imagine being the brother of 2 identical twins. Pretty crazy childhood. My dad decided that he wanted to have a relationship with Tommy. So to have a better relationship with Tommy, my dad decided, well, you know, I'm gonna build remote control airplanes, and we're gonna fly these things. And so they did that. So I remember such a years and years of my childhood, I would watch my dad and my brother Tommy build these remote control airplanes, and we'd go out into this field every weekend. And we would watch. Lori and I would sit there. My identical twin sister, Lori, would sit there and watch them, you know, build these planes, fly these planes, crash these planes. And it was really, really a fantastic thing to learn about. I learned a lot about flying very, very early on. And then my dad, I can remember it very distinctly. My dad was talking to us and said, you know what, I kind of want to learn how to fly a big plane. And so he learned how to fly. I mean, I remember there's big stacks of books on the kitchen table growing up, and learned how to teach. He taught himself how to fly. And I'll never forget the day when, you know, looking up, you know, in our 900 square foot house in Louisiana and seeing my dad do his first flyover. And so we named the company TwinEngine after my dad because he says, you know, you got to learn how to fly small planes before you fly big ones. So it's pretty cool.
I love it. So when people ask what TwinEngine does, how do you describe it?
Well, I mean, the best way to do it is, I think, back to the whole concept of identical twins. I think that, you know, brands come to us and thought leaders come to us to really help them see themselves outside of themselves, to help project back to them what is authentically them. And Lori and I have been doing that for several years. I'm not going to tell you how many. And really, we have this unique ability to see ourselves outside of ourselves, so that, I know what I look like when I speak. I know what I look like, on stage. I know what I sound like. Lori come up to me all the time and say, Winnie, we do not look good in those pants. So I think in a very simple but very structured way, we really help companies understand who they are and help them with their messaging, with their brand identity, with the words that they use and their strategy to really stand out in their industry. And we do that through a very, very structured process. Being identical twins, we're definitely left brain, right brain. So we bring that strategic and creative aspect to what we do. And really, more than anything, we help people align their brand strategy with their business strategy, because a lot of agencies do exceptional work when it comes to brand. But what we do differently is we mirror brand and business strategy, so that not only is the brand sustainable and the best it can possibly be, but it's aligned with their business strategy so they get to where they want to go.
Yeah, I want to talk about that brand and business strategy, because sometimes people think of brand as this, is that really should we focus on that? Is it really going to drive business? And right. So as when people have that identity, they have a strong message in business in general, and people are attracted to them. So I'd love to talk about, I know you worked with many, many companies, some of which we can't name, which are big that people would have heard of, but there is an IT company, and talk about kind of when they first come to you, what do you start with and how does it work?
Well, if you're in the IT business, you know a little bit about growth these days. This company, I'm glad you mentioned that one, because it's really less about what they deliver in terms of exceptional talent when it comes to outsourced IT, but they really want to make a difference in the world. And I think knowing what you stand for is one thing, but knowing the difference you make in the world is another, and mirroring those two. I think that company in particular, we've done an exceptional job helping them do that. So this company is going to help 1 billion people on the planet. And they're working with the UN SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, in not only using what they've achieved in business, but using it for good, so that they are purpose over profit, and that is just embodied everything that they do, and help them not only stand out in their industry, but their retention rate is incredible. And I think it has, it's a significant aspect on why they've grown so much. They've really, really spent a lot of time understanding what's important to them, what's important to the planet, and what they can contribute, not only as individuals, but as a company to serve others.
Yeah. And how do you start people off? They come to you. What are the issues that they're stating they have?
Well, they don't come to us and say, I need a brand strategy that aligns with my business strategy. They come to us and say, I'm either something like, I'm missing out on opportunities, and they don't know why. Maybe their business has grown to a certain level and they've lost touch with why they started in the first place. I think many companies sort of think that everyone's their customer. And one of the first things we say is everyone is not your customer, period. And really help them align with really who their target audience is. And what's really important to that target audience, what keeps that target audience up at night and how they solve their problems. And it's funny, when your brand is in alignment with your business, everything is easy. And I think companies often wonder, why is it so hard to retain employees? Why is it so hard to find the best fit for partnerships? And it's simply because they're out of alignment. I don't know if you've read Warren Rustan's new book, Stand Out as a Thought Leader. That's my new book, The Leader Within Us. I talk a lot about alignment in that book, because I think that it's misalignment, and we're looking for all these ways to solve certain problems in business, but we really believe that it's alignment of brand, purpose, and business.
Yeah, I love that. That's so powerful to think on focusing on the target audience, right? People may have plateaued, or maybe they're missing on opportunities, but focusing on the target audience is huge. And I'm curious, when you take them through this and they now have a clear vision and a clear path to their target audience, do you still get pushback from people that they're not perfect target audience coming in. Is there a discipline there where they're like, now we've identified, because before they were probably just taking everyone and it wasn't focused. Is there any pushback after you help them discover this and just not going after the other types of clients or customers they were going after before? Or are they kind of on a clear path?
Well, I think results speak volumes. When you're really focused on your target audience in the right ways and solving the correct problems that you solve the best, then it works. Then you just retain more of those clients that you're looking for. So I think it's learned through actually working through it. This also aligns with people's one thing I want to mention, Jeremy. I'm so glad you were talking earlier about a brand and it's who you are, because I think a lot of companies don't realize the importance of brand internally. We've all heard about the Great Resignation, and I think that when you look at this target audience that you're asking about and why that's so important, it's most important because of employee retention. If you're working with the wrong customers that are not aligned with you and what you do and the problems you solve, then that's causing a lot of anxiety and aggravation internally to your staff that you may be aware or may not be aware of. So it goes back to alignment. It's like an engine. It's like a well-oiled machine. When things are in line, things just work really well, and it prepares you for times when things don't work so well, so that you've got that strong foundation about knowing what you stand for, why you do what you do, and the difference you make in the world, not only to you and your customers, but also your employees.
Coming out the other side, they come to you with these questions and these problems. And then obviously, you work with them through their brand and how that kind of relates to their business itself. I'm curious, one of the things, what comes out on the other side? Like you mentioned, they identify their brand, and you mentioned the company that has purpose over profits. Do they discover kind of, what do they care about? And then they have social causes, or they have different things that they deploy in the company. What does that look like from how they deploy your work together?
Well, for them, it looks like growth, but not necessarily the growth that they have thought about growth in the past. It's sustainable growth. I think we've all been through, I know my company has been through intense growth periods where things fall apart. It's like the thing you hope for, but then when it arrives, you're like, okay, what do I do now? But I think this positions them for a sustainable, steady growth pattern that extends and lasts for a long period of time, and that it also gives them the foundation and the strength and the support in working through crisis periods. So, for example, most of our customers, our clients, excelled during COVID because they had that foundation, knowing what they stand for, the belief that they could do it. They had the dedication of the employees, and to this whole higher purpose that helped them really thrive in a challenging time.
Before we hit record, Winnie, you said there's a misconception that brand is something you market. What did you mean by that?
I think that, people often come to us and say, well, what is a brand? And we're like, well, you are a brand. Your company is a brand. Everything that a brand is already exists. It's our job just to pull that out, to extract that, and to present it back to you in a way that is truly you. I think, a brand is something that you are, and marketing is something that you do. I think that people have it backwards. And I think if people could understand, being an identical twin, Jeremy, it's like, I'm so lucky because I see I see the reflection of who I am. Now, Lori and I differ in so many different ways, but I can see myself outside of myself. And if companies could do that, just imagine the possibilities. And we're in the process right now, especially with Standard as the thought leader in this book, which, by the way, is not one of those books that you put on the shelf and read or maybe extract two things. It's a book that's filled with so many different activities and ways that you can work through the 8 fundamentals of standing out in business and how to strengthen them. So just everybody grab a copy of that, coming out, I think, about in a month. But back to what you were asking about in terms of a brand, I think that, again, it goes back to once you're clear, everything's easy. And it's not, it's not like looking at an agency out there and asking them to come help me build a brand, to help me create a brand. It's really just expressing who you are and how to present yourself in an authentic way to your ideal audience.
It feels less intimidating when you describe it like that, actually.
Well, it's easy. This is not some big, magical thing that just appears. This is something that you already are, that your company already is. And it's just putting it in its best possible light so that it can achieve its potential.
Yeah, I want to talk about your 2 books. And the one that you said you wrote the wrong book first.
Did.
So which book would that be?
So, well, this is we have 3 books. So the first book was Standing Out in Business, Mastering the 8 Fundamentals of Standing Out, which is this book. Obviously, we've changed the brand of them, but this was the first book. And what I realized was, we spent years and years and years, mastering these 8 fundamentals and what they are and how to build an assessment to help people assess which fundamentals they need to strengthen. But then what I realized was, when we launched the book, went on a speaking tour, we did hundreds of workshops, that it's impossible to stand out if you don't know what you stand for. So that the first book we actually wrote the second, which is What Do You Stand For? To really help people understand what they stand for and the difference they make in the world. And once you know that, then you can go through the process of standing out.
So what's in that book?
Which one?
This, What Do You Stand For?
What do you stand for? So What Do You Stand For is more like a workbook. So this is takes you through the whole process of even identifying what your core values are. Of course, there's a lot of text in there, but it also takes you through archetypes. I don't know if you've ever been through that process of archetypes. There's also, Jerry, I'll make sure to give you, we have a digital version of this book that's free to download, actually both books, so people can work through this. The thing I love the most about this book is a section that's called Ask. And Ask is where you ask 5 relationships, 5 questions, and then you get that feedback, and then you go through the process of analyzing how you feel about that feedback. And it's one of my favorite parts about the book. But I think, identifying what you stand for is not just something that you do and you're done. It's not a period. It's a comma, or maybe it's a semicolon. It's something that you go back and reevaluate over time, because we evolve and change as people. We evolve and change as businesses and companies, and we evolve and change as brands.
Should people, Winnie, go to TwinEngine.com to find that, or where should they go?
Sure. Go to TwinEngine.com. You'll see both books there. You can also reach me through TwinEngine.com, or you can email me, Winnie@TwinEngine.com, and I can send you the link to both of the digital books.
You opened it up to the magician. What is that?
Magician is an archetype. So there are Carl Jung, you may have heard of him, was the master at supporting individuals understand what their archetypes are. And an archetype is a persona. And we take companies through this process of identifying what their 3 top archetypes are. So magician in particular, and I'll open it up and read it for you, is a really good one, because it's really like, how do you solve problems for people in ways that are almost magical. So I'll read you this. I'll just open up. So also called the shaman or the visionary, the core qualities are a desire for the understanding of the universe and how it works. It is spiritual, holistic, and visionary that sometimes works miracles. So if you think about companies out there that may solve problems in almost magical ways, could be a magician. There's one that's also compared to it that people actually kind of mix up sometimes, which is the creator. So creator is Apple is a creator brand. And if you go to the book, it lists a bunch of them. So creator, also called the artist. The creator represents imagination, expressiveness, a willingness to take risk, is a cultural pioneer with a developed sense of the aesthetic. So you go through this process, you identify, and your whole team does it. You go and you identify what your top 3 archetypes are, and then you select your top archetype. Based on that, and there's some other activities in the book, like choosing characteristics that are your brand, will help you. So when you're going through this branding process, you'll say, well, is that really a magician? Do we really, feel that way? Or are we more creator, or are we a hero? Really good way to bring people together to help really explore the deeper meaning and persona of a brand, of a company, or even an individual.
Yeah. as an individual, where do you fall most?
I'm a creator and a hero. So, whereas I'm on the more creative side, Lori's more on the strategic side. So she's more of an explorer. But we switch back and forth.
I was going to say, I didn't know if you were a magician because you were a problem solver from a young age, even when you were trying to help your little brother in his crib.
How do you know about that?
So tell that story for a second. That's what I thought you were going to say, the magician, because of that.
The magician. Okay, just magic, right?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I've been a servant leader my entire life. This is not something that I learned in EO, and so back to my little brother Tommy. So, if you met Tommy, you'd probably understand. But Tommy's he's such an amazing human being. Runs a really successful business. But Tommy, he had two identical twin sisters. Who basically wanted to take care of Tommy, even though we were probably 3 years old. And Tommy I remember he was in his crib. And actually, I don't know if I remember this or I was told this. So full disclosure. And so Lori and I were like, well, he's hungry. Well, I mean, let's give him an apple, right? So one of us put an apple in his crib and then we realized that he didn't have teeth. So the other one put a steak knife in his crib. So of course, our parents came home and Tommy had a steak knife and an apple in his crib. So that was the beginning of our love relationship with our brother Tommy. So
I'm glad no one was harmed in that particular story.
Yeah.
That's great. And so people can check that out or email about what do you stand for. And in talking about the 8 fundamentals of standing out, there were 2 in particular that I wanted you to discuss, which is one is distinction.
Distinction. Well, that's really understanding what it is that is unique about you. Actually, one of my favorite tools in the book, and it's a Venn diagram, and you fill in what do I offer that overlaps with what people are looking for, and in a space and a place where your competitors won't, don't, or can't, or other thought leaders. The reason this is so important to Lori and I is that for the first 13 years of our life, Jeremy, we actually thought we were one person. Winnie Lori, hyphenated, Winnie Lori. Because, our mother and father, we had this green pleather chair in the living room. And every morning we'd walk up to the chair and my outfit would be on one side and Lori's would be on the other. And we'd put them on. They were identical, looked the same. Everyone called us Winnie Lori. And I mean, my grandmother, her entire life thought, didn't really understand which one was which because we were impossible to tell apart when we were young. But it really forced us to think, because I always thought, well, everyone's comparing me to Lori, like constantly, you know all the things when you see twins, you can't help yourself but compare them. But what I realized is that everyone else is being compared to other people too. And that I can use that skill to help people understand what it is that's really distinct about them. And so this is something that I've been practicing my whole life. And that's the key to distinction in the book.
Love it. There's another one, visual identity.
Visual identity. Well, how important is that today? Zoom. I think that we actually were at a summit recently facilitating, and we're talking about how important it is in how you show up at events, especially being a thought leader. How your visible brand matters. So if you know me, I only wear black, except for red one day a year. And it originally I actually got my degree in art, and it was something that I did because I was sort of living on an artist salary. But that's why I only wore black in the beginning. But it became a part of my brand, and it's a part of my brand. But I think how you show up, not only how you dress, but how you look visually as an individual. How you walk the stage, how you hold your hands, how you move, how people see you. And as a business, how you look to the outside world, from social media, social marketing, how everything is consistent so that when people see you, because if you know anything about algorithms in social media, is they see you such a fraction of the time, so that each time they see you, they read something, it's consistent, it's visually connected, so that people witness that brand from an identity standpoint. We're very strict about identity, and just making sure that we follow brand standards and that all of our partners follow brand standards, so that when a brand is seen visually, that it's very consistent and people recognize it.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk about your work with EO, but it's funny because you say that the black, I only wear white on the videos. And I think it stems from my backgrounds in biochemistry as a chiropractor. So I would always wear, when I was seeing patients, a white shirt and a white like lab coat. And so I just never lost that, I guess. But EO, you know, again, like servant leader, talking about there's so much time and energy that goes into it outside of all the other stuff, your family, your business, and you really have to be dedicated to serving others to, you know, serve on the board of EO and everything that you've done. Talk about some of the stuff that you launched, helped launch with EO.
Wow. Well, first and foremost, for all of the EO members out there today watching this podcast, listening to this podcast, please apply for the global board. It is the best role that I've had in my entire life. And the ability to serve has just been 10x for me as an individual. So please apply and reach out to me if you have any questions about it. So when I started in EO, that was 2005, 2004, I was told that when you become a new member, you serve on the local board. And I was like, okay, all right. So that's where it started. So that was 15 years ago, and I've started in a leadership position every year, and I'm currently now serving as a global board director. But my proudest project, there have been many, beyond serving through COVID, is launching the new brand for EO. So perfect role for me. Went through this whole process of interviewing agencies, working through the whole brand strategy, and the big moment I had was an all planning meeting in it was right outside of San Francisco at a place called University 1440, and there was a grove of sequoia trees. I'd never seen a sequoia tree before, and what I realized about these trees is they grow to 3,000 years. I mean, these trees are just incredible, and they're in each year there's a ring. And so there was a mother tree, and what I learned about these trees is that they move in space so that each one has enough light, and they're connected in their roots. And what a perfect thing to think about is EO. And so when you look at the logo today, some of the inspiration for that symbol was about these sequoia trees, and about year over year and the impact that this organization makes, and this whole concept of amplification. And you'll see in the symbol that there's open areas where it locks and unlocks and provides that safe space as an organization. And I'm absolutely thrilled about the brand, and was able to launch it during COVID, actually, and just went also through the process of updating the purpose statement. So that was a really amazing moment, because one thing we realized through the crisis as entrepreneurs, the role that we have on this planet. And the new purpose is to move the world forward by unlocking the full potential of entrepreneurs. And I think about that, and I think about, if we did, imagine the possibilities. So my next mission is to actually see that through. But you know, serving an EO, being an EO member, it's hard to even put in words, but I will say it's been so impactful for me, and the people that I've been able to touch, and the people that have touched me.
Love it. Winnie, who are ideal clients or customers for you in TwinEngine?
I think, we work from everything from startups to scale-ups. And I think really it's more of a mindset. It's individuals that lead companies that know that there's more to do, that know that there's more market to share, that know that they have a bigger role and a bigger purpose in the world. It's people that are struggling with their businesses and know that it's got to be easier. There's got to be a better way, and are willing to do the work to get there. We go through a process. We're actually in the process right now as a company of becoming a B Corp. About really focusing on serving others and serving brands and serving individuals. Because I think, and it goes back to that book, Jeremy, stand out as a thought leader. We're all thought leaders. We are all thought leaders. If you have something that you want to share and a message that you think is important for people to hear, you are a thought leader. And in every brand, in every company, there is a leader or multiple leaders. And all of those leaders have to be really clear about what that message is so that they can share that message to make an impact. And I think, truthfully, what we do at TwinEngine and what the book promotes is something that the world needs. The world needs us. The world needs that entrepreneurial thinking about, how we can come together to solve the world's biggest problems.
Winnie, I remember I had someone on, I think a few months ago, who was a B Corp, and they said it's no joke. Like actually applying and meeting the criteria, it's not like you could just send in a check and become a B Corp. It's a serious process.
Well, I'm going to give Lori full credit for that. And there were a bunch of entrepreneurs organization members that supported us in going through the application process. We just submitted, I think, a couple of months ago. But it's multi-year process, and it's not just, again, like you said, signing a check and mailing it in. It's about really looking at not only how you treat your employees, but how you treat your customers. The environments that you work in. The people that you serve, how much of your, we give away 12% of our time to serve others in TwinEngine every year. Of course, you only need 5% for B Corp status. But, the thing is, it's, the more you give, the more you receive. And, we've had the fortunate opportunity to be at a place as a company to really serve and give back to others. So I highly recommend, if you're thinking about B Corp, to start today. I'm happy to share my experience with you. But I think that it's also a competitive advantage in a way that companies can really stand out in the future, because with all of the things around sustainability and just, again, servant leadership, I think this is going to become very important for companies to consider in the future.
Winnie, how do you choose a company to do pro bono work for? And I don't know if you can share any of the companies or the work you did with them, but from the choosing process, because there's probably, you feel like there's so many worthy organizations.
Oh gosh. Caring. My last name's Hart for a reason. People always say, Winnie, why did you marry James? Of course, he's the love of my life, and we've been married for over 30 years, but his name's, it's a good one, Hart. It's a good name. I think that, we earn our wings every day, and that's our brand promise as a company. And earning your wings is beyond just the tasks that you do. It's going out into the world and serving. And it's a big part of what we do and how we help our team serve others in places that they want to serve. So people choose individual. Everyone has different things that they're interested in.
So people in the company may bring up different organizations that are true to them, and
so they have time that they're allowed to or gifted to go out and serve every month. And they have different things that they're interested in, whether it's child development or feeding the hunger. I think it's important, and I think it's important for companies to support that. We have a few things that we focus on at TwinEngine. One of them is cancer. We're big cancer donors in my family, my husband James, but also in terms of supporting organizations that support the looking for that cure, or at least serving others that are being threatened by cancer and other life-threatening diseases. But that my mother died of cancer in her 40s. And so it's something that my company and Lori and I and my entire family's been very, very focused on for many, many, many years. So cancer is a big one. We just did a brand, which I can probably say this for a fellow EO member, Dave Galbinski, who if you know what intimacy is, he's the one who coined that term many, many years ago. He just launched Liver Foundation. And so we were able to serve him to build that brand, to build his messages and his visible presence to serve others that are looking for living liver donations or curious about how that works. So that's pretty exciting. So, and if you are out there and looking for a way to serve others at a high level, please reach out to TwinEngine. We're always looking for great missions to serve. So reach out.
Thanks for sharing that. And sorry to hear about your mom.
Yeah.
Last question, Winnie. And first of all, thank you. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, your stories, and everyone should check out TwinEngine.com, learn more, check out the books. I'm shocked. I was about to try and talk Winnie out of giving them away because they're so valuable, but she's generous enough to give them away. So you can find them on the website or email her. Last question, Winnie, is EO's been a big part of your journey and some of the mentors you've had in EO and maybe a lesson you learned from them.
Wow. Together we grow. I think you've probably, if you're around EO or know any other members, I think that it's the togetherness that helps us move into the future. I think that we're better together, we're stronger together, and that the world depends on us in so many different ways. Whether it's from a giving perspective, a political perspective, a purpose state perspective, a strategy perspective, a economics perspective. The world really looks to entrepreneurs and to find ways to solve the world's biggest problems. And I think if we can come together to align not only with our brand as entrepreneurs, but our purpose, what we stand for, and why we make a difference in the world, we're unstoppable.
What mentors have you had in EO?
What mentors? Well, Warren Rustan is still a mentor for me today. What an incredible servant leader he is, and I've had the fortunate opportunity to get to know him really well and to serve him in his new book, The Leader Within Us, and Global Leadership Academy. I could go through a long list of things, but I think that every time that we're touched by someone in terms of mentorship, that it's up to us to touch 10 others. And I think that the way we grow is by just continuing this just amazing, vast pool of knowledge to continue all the things that we've learned to make the greatest impact.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about Renaissance person, I mean, that's more the definition of that. So definitely check that book out. And Winnie, I want to be the first one to thank you. Everyone check out TwinEngine.com to learn more. Check out more episodes of Inspired Insider and Rising Entrepreneurs. And thanks so much.
Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate it.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.